they pick on the A side. So I feel like B side does have a slight advantage in the meta right now.
All right, well, Grace and Lyra going to be the first picks of this draft. Both Baron and Volks taken off the board. So relatively standard stuff to kick things off just here. And we'll see how SaltyPotatoes are going to move forward with this ban.
Yeah, probably ban Idris and try to take the Baron here, but Qlash... Oh, I mean, sorry, Baron's not up, but and take Vox or something. Oh, Vox not up either. What am I looking at? They might potentially try to take like Samuel with Lyra here, so I think Samuel may come as a ban against SaltyPotatoes and not give them that Samuel-Lyra combo because it would be pretty good into Grace. And then, oh, it actually can take away the Scarf. So that means that leaves Skye and Lyra open, so I think SaltyPotatoes should last pick the Skye, I feel, and maybe take a strong one-power laner that they feel is good into Grace.
I wonder if it's a little bit risky to try and save the Skye for the last pick, just because we know Qlash is very good with Skye, even though they like to run it with the Lyra. I think they could very easily adapt it and run it with the Grace as well. So they're going to go with the Kestrel on the side of SaltyPotatoes. This is what worked for them in game number 1, so looks like they're just going to try and revisit that a bit. Maybe go for that Black Feather as their final pick.
Yeah, I've got an interesting statistic about Lyra, actually, that she's actually picked in 51% of games, and that's not including bans. She's picked in over half of the Vainglory games.
Very, very popular.
It's insane how popular she is and how often she gets through without being banned as well. But Samuel going to be the lock-in here for Qlash.
Yep, so Samuel's going to be picked up instead of the Skye there, which makes sense. Skye, Samuel with Grace is pretty strong. And then they'll probably pick like a laner, like potentially, they probably want to do range, so Gwen or something would be good. Dive is just risky because of Lyra's Bulwark, and Kestrel can just active camo, etc. So Gwen's going to be picked up here. Perfect. I like this pick. Now there's only
5 heroes that haven't been picked.
I know. Like I said, Gwen is actually really good into Kestrel especially. Now SaltyPotatoes can pick like a Skye to counter the Grace because they need something like that. Gwen is going to be a beast with a double Echo heal, and Kestrel will not be able to kill her fast enough. And Grace will be able to tank a lot of those arrows. So as long as they play the Grace appropriately, get some armor, get that Echo, and tank the arrows, they should win this matchup.
So now 85% of the heroes have been picked. So that's
it's like my prediction rate, 85%. No, I'm just kidding.
Mate, yours is more like 99 to be quite honest. But SaltyPotatoes looking towards a last pick here.
Oh, Celeste. That is risky.
Through.
Again, Gwen is good against Celeste too because Gwen can get out of a core collapse. And Celeste's not good into Grace. We saw Scarf get beat by Grace so hard because of the benediction. Skye can reposition and stuff like that, and Celeste needs to stack up, but by then she'll probably die by then. So risky pick there by SaltyPotatoes. I do like Qlash's draft a lot better.
Yeah. It does lead into that hyper late game that we've been talking about, though. Both these teams like to go towards that late game. Celeste's damage output when you get to that stage of the game is very difficult to deal with. So is this going to be a matter of both teams just trying to survive into that late game once again, just
pretty much
kind of playing a bit passive?
So both teams have a very late game oriented composition, so it's going to come down to which team can play a little bit better in the early game. We know they both prefer the late game. We know neither side is really super aggressive, but if one of them can just come out just a little bit more aggressive than what we've seen from them, you know, there's a really good chance that they could get that lead, and whoever goes into the late game with the advantage should be the team that closes it out.
All right, but we've seen in Vainglory the late game advantage doesn't necessarily mean the late game win. It can definitely all be turned on its head. It's time to get on into the third game of this series. It's Qlash up against the SaltyPotatoes, and we want to know who you are supporting. Hashtag Vainglory8 to get online on Twitter and let us know who you are voting for. But it's time to jump on into the third game of this semi-final and pass it to our casters.
Very indecisive matchup to be had here, AJ. Both these teams wanting to get those extra 2 points for making it to the finals. And only one of them can do so. SaltyPotatoes with a Celeste as well. Things are going to be pretty hot.
The Celeste is a really interesting pick. We were talking about it a little as the draft is going on, Dowsey. It does outrange the opponent's threats, but at the same time, it's very difficult to, for example, lock someone down like a Gwen because of Skedaddle, and she will have a lot of damage that she can get down on Celeste very quickly if she gets into range. Plus, she can kind of go on those expeditions onto the backline to make the hero plays because of the fact that you have a Grace backing up this Gwen. I think it's going to be very interesting to see how effective Mercilles is, how aggressively he plays.
Very excited for that. We do see HF Guy making his way into the jungle here. I think he actually stole something as well. He did, the Treant. I
Wow.
believe he picked up. No, that was just him healing via potion. I say he stole something. Maybe
your
he
heart.
did not. He didn't. He didn't steal my heart. My
He
heart's
didn't steal
still
your
here, AJ. I can feel it pumping.
All right, fair enough. He stole my heart. My heart's gone. That was me dying. All right. So, talking about these compositions a little bit more, though, I do think that one dilemma that might be had by the side of Qlash is simply that they don't have the same kind of sustain. Like, their sustain is not going to work nearly in the same way with the kinds of comps, because the fact that there's a lot of poke, right? So, Lyra can sustain over the course of a trade, whereas HF Guy really only sustains through all ends. And as a result, I do think that HF Guy and the pickup of the Grace makes sense with their comp, but it does mean that if they're not decisive, it's not going to pan out very well for Qlash. So definitely keep your eye on whether or not they're able to just, at the drop of a hat, say, all right, Gwen, go, and like see if they can pick up the kill on Celeste. The other thing that Qlash does have going for them is that everyone is very squishy on the side of SaltyPotatoes. It should be possible for them to just burst someone down if they find that opening.
Yeah, no, Team Qlash have early game power through their draft, I guess, of the Gwen. Samuel will be good in the late game, but will have a mid-game lull. Grace, pretty good throughout all stages of the game, but SaltyPotatoes, they definitely have heroes that are able to output more damage in the late game, and that's kind of what they're going to be relying on. It's not going very well for SaltyPotatoes here, though, as they have their jungle camp stolen from under their nose, really just cutting down the income that Joker can have. Really good stuff by Qlash, and not only that, it gets Agony further ahead of this Celeste, just allows for them to really make some moves. Sneaky, however, tries his best to steal away a camp of his own, does get it, and actually Mercilles trying to defend it goes down to the slowest auto attack in the game. Blessed with first blood.
Very nice stuff there. That's exactly what they need to be doing. If you shut down Mercilles, make it so that he's not actually able to get too strong too quickly. It is going to be very difficult for him to go on the kind of deep dives that we were talking about him maybe wanting to later on into this game. Agony's doing some serious work, though. It's finally his turn to play the Samuel. He's enjoying it, that's for sure. I wonder if he'll go for the same infusion play a little bit later on, because that can be very, very strong stuff if he goes for it. I think with the amount of damage that Qlash has, they very likely pick up a turret with something like that 6-minute infusion.
Yeah, I'm very intrigued to see what the difference in Frostburn timings actually is between Agony and the Joker. Will, I think, tell a story of how far ahead Agony is at this point in the game. Currently, that one kill will tie over SaltyPotatoes for the next little bit, but however this team fight is played next is really going to be a problem for SaltyPotatoes. There's a huge fountain window where HF Guy has his and Class isn't going to finish his for the next 30 seconds or so. Depends on how quickly he can get to the shop once he hits that 800 gold. And
There is a pretty limited amount of lockdown on Qlash, though, so it's pretty hard to capitalize on things like the soft CC that Grace provides. She provides the slow when she goes in the Benediction, but there's not really much follow-up to that keeps someone in range. So I think if Qlash wants to commit to a kill, they really do have to run very far forward. That could be punished by Joker rotating up, finding a core collapse, or Sneaky getting a good active camo down. Makes the target selection from Qlash very important. I think you have to engage onto Joker or Sneaky. Going on to Class isn't really going to pan. But on top of that, I think it's going to sort of make it so that, if they don't find a Holy Nova, SaltyPotatoes can really easily reposition and just start poking back at Qlash.
Do have that fountain finished for Class, as well as a tension bow picked up here by Mercilles. A little bit slow, actually, to getting that tension bow online. And for Team Qlash, that's a key part of their win condition is snowballing this next 4 minutes of the game. they can do so, then they put SaltyPotatoes far enough behind, they'll be alright, but they're not able to, then SaltyPotatoes are going to be very happy laughing their way towards the late game. It seems like these Frostburns are even going to be finished very similar times, AJ. Agony's got the gold for Joker to combine his Heavy and Eclipse Prism into a Frostburn is there, although currently doesn't quite have the freedom to go straight down to the shop and pick it up.
The Frostburn spike is definitely a lot better for Samuel. The level 8 spike is a lot better for Joker on Celeste, though. So I wouldn't expect to see SaltyPotatoes necessarily either rush Joker into the shop to get the Frostburn because it's going to matter a lot. Ooh, whoa, sneaky. That was a lot of damage. I wouldn't expect them to prioritize getting Joker's Frostburn like super fast. He might just stay here and push the wave instead because he doesn't need it. You know, he's not going to make any plays off the back of that Frostburn probably. At level 8, though, I would expect him to try and get that Frostburn and get to a shop ASAP, because that's when you get the bonus range on your Overdriven Heliogenesis. You really start to mess with the shorter range characters on Qlash.
Agony and HF Guy actually prevented Joker from going down to the shop and finishing that Frostburn, and so he's been stuck in the lane, and by taking Sneaky down, just allowed them to really put the pressure onto onto the SaltyPotatoes roster. Nothing was gained apart from, you know, perhaps CS lost Sneaky's way, currently sitting about 10 CS behind his opponent. Which is great stuff for Merciless again here in this game. Agony does roam up to the lane once more. 2,000 gold on the Joker. He had the money for Frostburn. 1,100 gold ago. Whoa. He's just not been able to spend any of it yet. Is trying to get level 8. Should be able to get it off a couple of minions here in the lane. And that is a nice little power spike for the Celeste.
As I said, I think this is fine, though. Like, now that he's level 8, he's going to get Frostburn and actually be able to do something with it. But prior to that, I think it would have been pretty hard. Interesting that Sneaky went for a Tension Bow, given that SaltyPotatoes probably are not looking necessarily to fight that early. It is a bit of an interesting pickup. Top of the Star Blade is going to be a lot of burst damage. Maybe they're going to sort of look to punish any overextension from Qlash, rather than just strictly playing a turtley game, which is not a terrible plan. They do have the high range on Joker now, so they can probably do that a little bit more easily. I think still SaltyPotatoes are playing for the later stages of the game. Qlash, ooh, that's a bad spot.
Yeah, Qlash gets bursted right down. He's able to escape, but look at the damage coming out of Agony onto Sneaky.
Ooh.
So much work going out, and Qlash is going to be forced to give a heal all up to Sneaky, just trying to regen. While Joker makes his way up towards the lane. This turret down to half HP, and Qlash are looking to try and take it down. If SaltyPotatoes are able to clear the wave, then the longer it takes for Qlash to take this first turret, the better the chances of SaltyPotatoes scaling up into the late game.
Yeah, and a big point here is that, you know, yes, we saw Qlash land a lot of poke damage down onto Qlash and onto Sneaky, but like we talked about earlier, the fact that they have a Lyra kind of invalidates that. I don't think Qlash wins that kind of a fight very often. They need to be trying to go in and really committing to a kill. And Merciless is a key component of that. But currently, they have not found the windows. Especially when you're fighting under a tier 1 turret, it's pretty difficult against a Lyra, who has Arcane Passage. I'd like to see them just try some straight-up ganks. You know, HFI make the same move he just did, but with backup from Agony. Maybe that could pan out. Right now they're getting punished for not sticking together and actually pressuring, though, because Agony is far away. It's given a lot of momentum to SaltyPotatoes. Good position in the lane. Might be able to get this turret down. Qlash doesn't have a good response.
Gonna be a siege breaking out. SaltyPotatoes able to chunk that turret down to half HP. The Heliogenesis from range when it goes supernova as well. Just does so much work. HF Guy is going to look for an gank in. Oh, but Merciless just gets blown up. Core collapse on top of him, and that's going to be another kill going over to SaltyPotatoes. Team Qlash jump to their deaths, completely disrespecting the power of their opponents, and first turret goes to SaltyPotatoes.
The skedaddle there was just not even close to being quick enough. That was one of the biggest issues. The other thing was that they just didn't sync up their engage very well. You know, they didn't stack when HF Guy went in. Agony's not quite strong enough yet, it seems like. Maybe needs one more item. Really nicely played by SaltyPotatoes. That was a good example of how having the aggressive posture in a lane can do a lot for you. They forced Qlash to respond because the siege is so good from SaltyPotatoes, whereas when Qlash has been in equivalent positions earlier, their siege is just not comparable. So they've not been able to be threatening enough to SaltyPotatoes that they force a reaction. This is, even though the turrets went both ways, obviously a big advantage for SaltyPotatoes having picked up the ace. If they keep, leveraging their longer range and sustain to fight these trades, I don't know if there's much Qlash can do other than hitting Broken Myth on Agony like they have just done and kind of just really committing to a fight right now.
I really don't like the poison shiv on Gwen either, because it's very likely that Massilies is forced to go a crit item if he wants to go 4 damage items. Actually, looking at his build, he may just go for defensives instead, really rely on Agony. Lots of bursts coming out. That Solar Storm rips for 3. Doesn't quite find too much damage. I think that Crucible blocked up the majority of it. Qlash walks forward. Oh, Qlash just about survives. HF Guy, can he have the same fate? One shot into his booty. And a kill over to Sneaky as well. They're going to chase forward Massilies with the slow. Look at the SaltyPotatoes. Front line may not be there, but their back line is wanting to charge in. They got the heals as well. Massilies and Agony are going to be safe though.
Man, that was really nicely played by SaltyPotatoes, but I do think Qlash is a little bit lucky that he got out of that one. I think had the reaction from Qlash been quicker, they probably could have killed him before he made the distance that he did. This is one of the scary things about fighting against Celeste and Kestrel, though. You cannot deal with the one-shot and Solar Storm, again, in these very elongated back-and-forth fights. Everything about SaltyPotatoes brings to the table does well in that situation. They can sustain. They can pick you off as you try and retreat because of their insane range. They can punish overreaching engages because of their crowd control and disengage potential. Qlash has to just go in. And they're not doing that yet. They're not committing fully to these fights. You saw HF Guy at the beginning of the last one use Benediction, turn back because there was a core collapse and he didn't want to pop Crucible to dodge it, and he took half of his health. Well, what are you going to do? Use Divine Intervention on yourself? No, you need to just go in, cause enough of a ruckus that your carries get a chance to deal damage. It's hard to make that decision, it's scary, but it is the plan that Qlash needs to play to.
I just wonder how much damage Massilies is going to be output in the late game. As we starting to make our way there, AJ, 14 minutes, it's not too far off that, third damage items are on everyone, and we're rolling on towards that stage of the game. The Poison Shiv is necessary in some sense because you want to try and cut down the healing classes outputting, but it just doesn't synergize very well with what Gwen wants to do. Usually Gwen wants 4 damage items, she wants to be a crit monster, but she cannot do that with Poison Shiv because she can only buy 1 crit item. And as Massilies has it anyway, he's going double defensive. There were other weapon power carries available. Yes, Baron, Idris, and Vox were taken off, but where's Glaive? We've seen so much Glaive in the lane recently, and Glaive fairly good into Kestrel as it is anyway, and would have certainly been fine into the Celeste. So, perhaps just weak hero pools. Perhaps we'll have to see. Solar Storm. Oh my gosh, it finds the still with Qlash and the auto attack. Everything just timed perfectly. The global
What's with
ultimate.
Lyra basics, man? This is 2 steals in like 2 weeks.
What I love is that everything hit at the same time. The one shot, the Solar Storm, and Lyra's basic attack. That is synergy on a completely different level.
This is bad news for Qlash. We talked about it earlier, but they kind of needed to have the momentum in this game. They certainly do not right now. I think that once Massilies picks up, actually, I don't know, maybe he's going for 2 defensive items. I think he needs more crit. He needs a Tyrant's Monocle for this game to be doable. But with the items that he has in his inventory right now, that's kind of a stretch.
He needs 2. Or a Tornado Trigger instead of the Poison Shiv. That's the issue, is that 1 crit item's not enough to output enough damage. You need 2. This is troublesome because that means that they're basically relying on Agony to be their only late game damage. You have basically a hyper carry in the form of Celeste. You have, I think, weapon powered Kestrel when at the top of her game probably could be considered late game hyper carry in her own right. So much late game potential and just Qlash to provide so much sustain and healing. Qlash going to really struggle once these builds are completed. We see HF Guy go in, is able to walk away safely. Qlash just taking up all of the harass, but great find from Agony to get a Malice empowered verdict. Drifting Dark empowered Malice and verdict off.
This is a position that SaltyPotatoes are tactically making a mistake in. You shouldn't be fighting in this kind of a choke point. That being said, they've got their cooldowns back up. Maybe they want to go in again. Bulwark's already burned.
This is the Drifting Dark once more. They're all backing away, but they've caught out Sneaky. The Oblivion won't quite find a target, but the Solar Storm is going to. One shot onto Agony. Moving forward, Joker wants to keep those broken myth stacks alive. They are starting to drop. Team Qlash have been pushed back. Fountain's still there from Qlash. They could look to continue through here. SaltyPotatoes does seem like they are very wary that they don't want to face up against Agony's Malice and Verdicts at the moment.
So much sustain from SaltyPotatoes. They didn't even need to use Fountain in that fight. Sneaky's back to almost full health after being one hit from dead. This is just further, I think, proving the point that we're making about really Qlash needing to just go, which they're not doing. It's getting almost frustrating for them, not for me. I'm a caster, I don't get frustrated. Qlash, if they can find another fight in a choke point like that, does enable Samuel to be quite effective. And also the past couple of fights, Joker has been committing himself to some pretty poorly positioned core collapses. Does mean that maybe, HF Guy can stick on top of the targets he needs to. Again, it's about being decisive and just going, though. That's how Qlash wins this game. They're struggling to find the window here.
They struggle with their engage, and the Aces High is their only real hard engage. Massili's has hit it multiple times, but they just haven't been able to find the kills off it. Agony gets bursted, Massili's as well. They're going to try and find Sneaky, but he blocks it up, and then he gets taken on down. Now it's Agony trying to run away here as the one-shot won't find its target. Agony is sustaining. The Joker trying to find some damage, trying to play at range. HF Guy will be sacrificed. Now it is just Agony, last man standing. The Kraken will be started up. Everyone's so low, but they get a bit of a heal here. Doesn't look like Agony is going to contest this. SaltyPotatoes 6-0 going to find the Kraken.
I don't feel like the competition for Qlash has much of a hope at this point. It really, A, needed to do more earlier, and B, needed to make the engage we were talking about. Past this point, you can see it here. Even when in a sort of an extended fight, Samuel's alive and Grace is managing to stun two people, which is, in a lot of compositions, a fine position to be in. Like, you lose your one member, but then Samuel cleans up. They actually can't, because there's just too much sustain and damage coming out of SaltyPotatoes. They've hit their late game spike. Joker is out of control right now, 3 items. Look at how quickly the turrets are going down.
And Weapon Power Kestrel just so good at taking turrets down with this crit build. So safe as well. The Glimmer Shots from range. 600 damage per Glimmer Shot. Those turrets don't stand a chance. Kraken is going to continue pushing into the base here. They don't really have a good Kraken taking squad. Even Massili's and Agony on this. Samuel and Gwen not very quick at doing so. HF Guy is providing stacks to the Joker, but SaltyPotato is going to not count their chickens. They're going to escape safely. No need to fight at this point. It's only a risk to them.
Yeah, Qlash, I don't know about this chase. HF Guy is already pretty low. Big thing to note, by the way, is that HF Guy does not have an Echo, which I think is pretty critical in this game. Because you need to be able to heal up the burst of the actual fight, the damage that Joker's doing with Helios and Sneaky's doing with Glimmer Shots and basics. But then you also need to be able to heal one of your targets who's about to get one-shot or Solar Stormed after the main fight ends. So you need 2 of them, and you also need 2 to compete with the sustain that Lyra's offering. Look at this too. I mean, HF Guy, look at his defensive itemization, right? He's got 4 defensive items of varying levels of completedness, and he's still getting chunked to half very quickly, just by incidental damage, basically. So, again, if you're getting chunked this hard before a fight begins, you're doing it wrong, because you need to just be beginning the fight and committing to it.
This pretty insane stuff so far. As Agony's just going to get chunked down. Oh, that damage! The one shot doesn't quite find its target, but Agony clenched very, very hard there to try to escape.
Did you say
Man.
clenched?
I may have. I may have.
Crystal Sentry defeated.
It's a word. You can look it up.
Okay. Agony has an Eve of Harvest now. I think that could clinch the fights for the side. Qlash, maybe. Because admittedly, in that previous fight where I said, oh, you have a Samuel and a Grace up, everyone's kind of low, maybe you can win. Yeah, it's possible with an Eve. We got a fight coming, though.
Yeah, fight is coming. That's going to be Qlash eating up that Aces High. Sneaky blocks the Oblivion. Agony takes the Solar Storm. Now they're going to look to chase forward here. SaltyPotatoes, the Heliogenesis slowing HF guy. He's being targeted down. He should get taken out as well in just a second. Supernova finds the kill. Now Merciless in so much trouble as the portal comes through. Oh, great bright bulwark. Stops everyone up. And it's just Agony, last man standing. Has that drifting dark coming up, but he gets taken down by Sneaky, an ace and a triple, and they're gonna walk and try and take the base. 30 seconds on HF Guy, 40 on Merciless, but SaltyPotatoes looking to take this series here, AJ, and knock G2 out of that 6th spot.
It's pretty crazy. In Game 1, SaltyPotatoes had a flawless game. In Game 3, they're going to have a flawless game too. These teams were evenly matched, I think, when they had a lead, but they were also easily matched when they had a deficit, and unfortunately for Qlash, they were the ones with the deficit 2 games out of the 3.
Yeah, this is great stuff. SaltyPotatoes is going to be super happy with that win. Believe that win puts them up to 10 points, if I'm correct. No, 8 points, I believe it would be on the ladder. Maybe it is 10. You know what? Tasty Bacon standing by with Munchables, and he can tell me exactly where we stand.